Man, that was a crazy fight. Both guys deserve a lot of credit. Both performed way better than expected. Islam looked good on the feet. Volk looked good on the ground. Both guys showed levels to their game that we didn't really expect, right? Everybody thought that Volkanovski would be the far better striker, but he got dropped in the fight and got outstruck for like half the fight. And then you have Volkanovski defending most of the takedowns, getting up from the bottom way easier than we expected, defending the rear naked chokes against who a lot of people thought was the best grappler in the world. But it ultimately ended in a controversial decision where Islam Makhachev was given the decision, 2 48-47s and 1 49-46. Every single judge gave the first, second, and fourth rounds to Islam Makhachev. 2 of the judges gave the third and fifth rounds to Volkanovski, while one of the judge, of course, Derek Cleary, gave only the 5th round to Alexander Volkanovski. And I see a lot of people believe that Alexander Volkanovski should have gotten the decision in a very close fight. Is that in fact true though? Should have Volkanovski gotten the decision here? Well, we can just say right off the bat that the 1st and 4th rounds for sure go to Islam, no matter what. 5th round for sure goes to Alexander Volkanovski. The only real controversial rounds are the 2nd and the 3rd. Some people have criticism of the 4th round considering that Islam only got his back and held on to it for 3 minutes of the round, while Volkanovski was punching him in the head and stuff, but I'm going to get this right out of the way so I don't have to go through that whole round. Islam landed some good strikes on the feet. He landed a good left straight that even got Volkanovski's acknowledgement and a good check right hook before getting a perfectly timed shot and then got his back. He didn't just hold Volkanovski to the ground for 3 minutes. He held onto his back for 3 minutes. And when you look at the judging criteria, positions that can contribute to the end of the match is a form of effective grappling, and it will trump most things that you're going to see in a fight. Getting someone's back is probably the most dominant position you can get in grappling. Yes, Alexander was landing some punches, but these are not big punches. These are not damaging shots. These are not cutting up Islam, rocking him, even getting much impact. He's landing shots, but it's not going to trump holding onto someone's back for 3 minutes. If it showed damage, then yes, we can say that, but it didn't. So right there, right off the bat, we can just give that 4th round right to Islam. 1st round for sure is Islam's as well. For the 5th round, the reason why it will go to Alexander Volkanovski is for the fact that he did drop Islam. Volk was losing the fight up until he landed that right hand as Islam was changing levels. It was a perfectly timed shot, very precise, and that was by far the most damaging punch of that round. Let's start with that 2nd round, and firstly, the way we have to score fights is by the judging criteria. When it comes to striking, damage trumps everything. That even counts cuts, bruises, anything you even see cosmetically. And when we talk about effective grappling, we're looking at takedowns, submissions, positions that could potentially contribute to a finish. And in order to get the most accurate scoring possible, we're going to be scoring every single strike in accordance to damage. Light, medium, and heavy. Let's get right into that 2nd round. First strike of the round is when Islam threw that big left haymaker. Very uncharacteristic for him to do, but Volkanovski was able to duck right under it, seeing a mile away, and just touches him with a check left hook. It didn't even look like he meant to land it with any power. Then Volkanovski lands a 2nd strike as Islam's coming at him with the 1-1-2. Volk ducks under it and lands a slapping right hook to the body. And here's the big shot. Volkanovski drops Islam with a left overhand that seems to hit him behind the head. Not purposeful, it wasn't intentional. It was as Makhachev was moving away, which definitely counts. And that's where Islam gets the single leg takedown. He doesn't really do anything with it. Volk was able to get up from it pretty easily and then just stand up trying to unpry Islam's grip, but then eventually got dragged back to the ground for just a split moment before he reversed and stood up again. Volk gets into the Thai plum and then throws in a big right overhand, but completely misses the punch, connects though with his bicep. Not really going to cause any damage here. Islam retaliates with a big knee to the body. You can see from the impact, it jumps Volkanovski's body up. This was a good knee. Volk gets a knee in there while they're in the clinch against the fence. He reverses it and then gets a punch up there. Both light attacks. Then Volk gets in there recklessly, switches stances as he's trying to line up a big left overhand, and Islam keeps it simple with a tight check right hook that touches Volkanovski. After losing balance from the punch and from him throwing such a big left overhand and missing, he does catch his fall with a leg kick. Volkanovski's doing it again, switching stances inward, trying to line up that big left overhand off of his right hook, and gets caught by another check right hook. But this time, he actually does touch Islam at the end of that left hand and follows it up with another leg kick. He does the exact same thing, but just touches him this time. And here's the biggest strike from Islam in the round. He moves away from the big right hand to the body, exposing Volkanovski's chin, and gets cracked by a counter left straight that hurts him. This was honestly a beautiful counter shot from Islam that I was kind of surprised to see him actually go for. Now on the offense, Islam lands another left straight that turns Volkanovski's head. In the middle of the attack, Volkanovski Volkanovski throws out a slapping right hook that connects on Islam. Islam tanks the punch and returns with a big left hook. Islam attacks even more and lands a right uppercut. Volkanovski takes that punch very well, to the point where he was able to throw a left hook immediately afterward, connects on Islam, but it doesn't phase Islam at all. Volk lands a kick to the hip, not much there, and Islam returns with a jab right to the face that backs Volkanovski up, and he tries to slip on the outside of Islam's left straight, but it does graze him. A leg kick from Volkanovski, and then about 20 seconds later, Islam's able to pressure Volk back and lines up a left uppercut, and Volk ducks right into the punch. This was a big shot, and Islam follows it up with a knee to the body. And the round ends with Volkanovski holding Islam up against the fence. Islam lands 11 strikes against there, all light attacks, and Volkanovski lands 8 of his own. So by tallying up all the strikes and looking at all the damage here, this second round's really close, where Islam landed 1 more total strike, Volk landed 5 more light strikes, Islam landed 4 medium and 3 heavy, but Volkanovski did have a knockdown. The reason why this one is really hard to score is because at what point does the cumulative damage of the medium and the heavy and all of that together that Islam landed trump that knockdown? At the end of the day, it doesn't. If you really go by the judging criteria, Volkanovski wins that second round. But it is arguable. If you want to make an argument that Islam wins the second round, you can do so, but you do have to remember that the judging criteria says that immediate impact will trump cumulative. The most damaging strike of a round is going to beat everything else. You can say that a flash knockdown that Volk got on Islam probably isn't as damaging as a clear-cut knockdown and he just hurt from there on out. It's a really tight one to score, but if you go exactly what the criteria says, you have to slightly edge this to Alexander Volkanovski. If he didn't get that knockdown, Islam easily wins that round. And let's get right into that third round. The first strike that lands is Islam Makhachev partially landing with a head kick that Volk only blocks with one hand. You cannot really block the full impact of a head kick with one hand like that. Then Volkanovski lands a very good check right hook over the top as he slips on Islam's jab. This gets a pretty good reaction out of Islam. Now it's hard to see from the camera angle if this knee from Islam actually lands. We'll come back to it if we have to. Leg kick from Islam, but he uses that as a conditioning factor in order to land a body kick that lands flush on Volk. This was a good shot from Islam. He follows it up with a left hook and it actually gets around the guard, turning Volk's whole head around. Volk retaliates with a combination but only lands the leg kick, slapping with it on Islam's thigh, and Islam returns with a jab to the face. Volkanovski grazes a right hook to the body, then lands a jab up top afterward. Then we finally get to the first medium strike from Volkanovski in the round. He lands a good inside leg kick, taking away Islam's balance, gets a pretty big reaction out of Islam. Volk then touches Islam at the end of his darting left hand, not that much impact and doesn't really get a reaction out of Islam. Then Islam lands 2 knees, one to the body and one to the leg, before he attempts a takedown. In the middle of the takedown attempt, Volkanovski does land one right hand and ultimately gets taken to the ground but finds his way back up to his feet. Islam doesn't get much with that takedown. Volk reverses this, gets Islam up against the fence, lands 5 strikes there as Islam lands one of his, and then while Volk disengages, he does land a right hook. Now Islam finally gets back in there with a big strike of his own as Volkanovski runs into a big elbow. Leg kick from Volk. Then afterward, he follows us up with a jab up top, but the damage gets beaten by Islam's counter right hook that shakes up Volk for a moment. Islam lands a jab as Volk was trying to move away from it. Then Volkanovski again lunges in there with his punches, switches stances as he's trying to land a darting left hand and gets countered in the back of the head with a right hook. The collision causes Islam to trip over. They both exchange knees on each other against the fence. Islam is trying to move away from Volkanovski, get away from the fence as well. Volk easily cuts him off, but he gets hit behind the head again by another counter right hook, but this time with the forearm. Hard to tell from the camera angle if Volk's knee lands as he tried to take Islam to the ground, and that ends the third round. Now tallying up all the strikes and looking at the damage here, Volkanovski landed 1 more total strike, 4 more light, but Islam landed 2 more medium in the single heavy strike of the entire round. It's pretty clear cut. Islam Makhachev wins the third round as he landed the most damaging shots, and also remember he did get some takedowns as well, just to add on to it. And that clears up the entire scoring here. Did the judges get this fight correct? They actually did. Islam Makhachev wins this fight by a 48-47, even an arguable 49-46, showing that even Derek Cleary's scorecard isn't as ridiculous as it seems. Even though I disagree with it, you can find an argument to give the first, second, third, and fourth rounds to Islam Makhachev, but by looking at the scoring criteria, you have to give the first, third, and fourth rounds to Islam Makhachev. The fight was very close, but it did have a clear winner. So I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown, and if you did, make sure to give this a thumbs up. If you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one coming very shortly.